All right, not too long ago, I made a couple of videos, harsh videos may I add, on Ledger and how they stopped their support for the Ledger Nano S, as well as other things that didn't quite sit well with me over the recent years. And look, I was harsh on that video. I was extremely harsh on that video, and I called a lot of things out. But since then, Ledger actually reached out to me, and not only did they explain some things to me, but they also agreed to come on an interview to set some things straight. Now, Ledger didn't have to do this. They could have just been silent about it. But what impressed me is they actually had an ear to what's going on, and they're not afraid to address certain concerns. And this for me is extremely bullish. And if anything, congratulations just for that alone. And they didn't just send anybody. They sent their CXO, Ian Rogers. Now, if you don't know who he is, Ian Rogers has quite a remarkable background. I mean, he was the senior director of Apple Music and the CEO of Beats Music, the VP and general director of Yahoo Music, and also the creator of Winamp, for those of you that are kind of old, like me. And he came on and addressed every single one of our concerns. So here's what I'm gonna do. Watch the video, watch the interview, you're gonna see it right now. Then we're gonna come back and talk about a little bit about what I got from this interview and where I see Ledger now and if they actually changed my mind. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Oh, and I do push Ian quite a lot in this interview, the crypto factor style. So have fun, you're probably gonna enjoy this. Ian, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you doing this. And just to start, I want to say off the bat, I think it's remarkable and very honorable that Ledger would actually do this, you actually doing this to set things straight, to educate us, to maybe reveal some mistakes we made in those videos we did about Ledger.
It's all right, man. I'm really happy to be here. It's, we talk to people about this all the time. It's important. These are important topics, and you're out there telling people what to do with their personal wealth, with money they could lose. Like anybody that we can help is worth the time.
So Ledger recently made an update, and just to get started, before I get even into the video, just wanted to say that this video is sponsored by Trezor. Just kidding, man.
Is that like a TV dinner? I never heard of that. Just kidding.
Anyway, so just to get started, you recently made you recently stopped updating the Ledger and Nano S. Now we understand why. It just wasn't working in today's standards. You couldn't load coins into it. My question is not so much, or my issue was not so much that you stopped supporting it. It's the abrupted way you started to stop supporting it.
Well, we actually stopped selling it in 2022. We stopped selling it in the beginning of 2022, and we started talking about like the wind down way back then. So that's 3 years ago. Generally speaking, on consumer electronics, like 2 years is kind of the standard. And for us, we do still support it. It's just a question of how far do you go in supporting it, right? So like you said, the Nano S, and just to be clear, because there was also a lot of confusion, people don't really know our product line intimately, which is understandable, right? So the Nano S is a product that came out back in 2016. So it's quite an old product. We stopped selling it in 2022. And also, and I think this is part of the confusion for people, in 2022, we started selling the Nano S Plus. So the Nano S Plus is like basically the Nano S, but with an updated chip and more memory. Mm-hmm. So it's still a device with no Bluetooth, no battery, and it's very inexpensive. And it has like all of the same features, of like a Nano X. It just doesn't have the Bluetooth or the battery. And it actually has the exact same chip that's in the Stacks and the Flex, right? So the Nano S Plus is an inexpensive yet state-of-the-art device. So we stopped supporting the S because it's an old chip. It has very little memory. And so if you just want to hodl Bitcoin or Ethereum, the Nano S is fine. And frankly, it still is. The problem is that what we're doing every day is we're supporting more blockchains, more complex interactions, smart contracts, clear signing, and doing all of that in this teeny little memory footprint. just isn't possible. And so right now, like we're developing support for blockchains like Sui and Hedera and Aptos. And like you want to do the things that you're doing on those blockchains, you're not going to do them in an S plus. Just like you're not going to run,
Right.
the latest app on a iPhone from 2016. So to me, there's nothing abrupt about it. We stopped in 2022. Now it's 2025. We're still supporting, Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera, but we're starting to say, hey, for these new, more complex blockchains, like we just can't develop this new stuff on the S anymore.
Right. Now, let's just unpack that just one second. Okay. You stopped selling on your website in 2022, but distributors obviously kept on selling it, correct?
This I don't know, to be honest, and I don't know what the inventory that was out there, but I mean, we messaged the same message to all of our distributors back in 2022,
Right.
and we introduced the S Plus, right? So any good distributor is going to move to the S
But
Plus.
you did not communicate that the updates will slowly wind down back then. The way I learned it, and I'm on YouTube every day, I'm in crypto since 2017 as a C-suite executive, as an author on YouTube. I heard about this in what was it? When did the news come out? Just a couple of months ago? And
Uh, to be honest, it wasn't even really news. It was like some information that was published on our dev portal because of
right.
continuing to support. But really, like when
So it
we
was more discovered than actually communicated. So let me ask you something. Would you say, in hindsight, just to put this one, because I have other questions and other products we want to talk about. In hindsight, would you have communicated this differently? In other words, let me give you an example. There was a hack not too long ago where it actually Ledger actually leaked our emails. Now, I'm not gonna talk about that too much. I just want to give it as an example.
That was
But
June of
the emails
2020.
were
That was
leaked.
June of 2020, by the way. So defined not too long ago.
Okay, the emails, well, you just stated it. So the emails were leaked. Wouldn't the same emails couldn't of the same emails be used to actually tell us that you're stop updating the Ledger Nano S or you are or you were going to?
Well, to be honest, nothing has changed for Nano S users at this moment, right? What we did is we messaged developers saying that developer support is no longer available, and we're
Right.
starting to message people on certain chains where where users are actually impacted. So no, what I wouldn't do is mail the vast majority of Nano S users who are just fine hodling Bitcoin and tell them something that is irrelevant to them. Right.
It's
So,
not irrelevant that you're not going to be fully updating or supporting the Ledger Nano S.
well, we stopped selling it in 2022. If what you're doing is hodling Bitcoin, you're fine. If you have your 24 words, you're always fine. Right. So what exactly is the message? Right. And the message is, that we have, there are plenty of things you can still do with that device, yet there are some things that you can't. So what we're doing is messaging people about the things you can't as you can't. And we are starting to do that. The thing
Okay.
is that, you're talking about like very small groups of people, people on a certain chain where that app is no longer updated, and we will update people as it's relevant to them. So absolutely. And like I said, I think that the bigger thing here is that people have a bit of a misconception that when you buy a piece of consumer electronics, it might last forever. People should never have that view, right? Also, people should understand that if you have your 24 words, you are always protected,
Well,
right?
let's talk about that just one second, okay? Let's say, for example, I am a hodler for whatever reason. I bought the Ledger Nano S in 2022, okay, or before that, and I have my private keys somewhere, or maybe in a bank
In your
vault or
24
somewhere
words.
there.
Yep.
And I have my Ledger Nano S. Now, I see two issues with this. Number one, in a couple of years, in 2, 3 years, let's say, and let's go down the route that the Nano S is not supported sufficiently. Okay, let's just hypothesize that for just one second, because I think that's where the whole confusion is, and this is what people need to hear because I think you have the answer for this.
Mhm.
So let's say there's two different scenarios. I have my private keys in a bank vault, and I have my Ledger Nano S with me. I have no idea about them stopping the updates or not sufficiently updating the software, and I am out of the country or somewhere. Or even better yet, I've left the Ledger Nano S with instructions to someone. If something happens to me, this is where the Bitcoin is. I died, whatever. Touch wood, right? And it wants to go to my kids or my spouse or whatever. Would it not be an issue if they tried to connect the Nano S to control my keys, to control their Bitcoin, to control their Ethereum, whatever? But because of the Nano S not being updated sufficiently, this malware on my computer, all of a sudden, guess what? I get drained or there's a middleman attack or whatever. That was my issue. And if that can happen, that's one
Yeah,
thing.
you're not, the nano is going to protect you from the malware. The malware is the part that there's the introduction here that I'm not understanding. But let me say this. First of all, you always want to be sure you have that backup, right? Anything could happen. You could lose your device.
Of course.
So it's a piece of electronics, like anything could happen to it. It could go, you could leave it in a pair of jeans and put it in the washing machine. You definitely want to have a backup. And this is why we have an array of backup options, right? You've got your 24 words, like you said, could be in safe deposit box or somewhere else. It could be on steel, fireproof, et cetera. We have now Ledger Recovery Key, which is a pin protected electronic backup.
We'll get to that.
And then you also have Ledger Recover, so you have, and really like you have a broad array, and you definitely want to have backup. You could even just have a second device.
Oh yeah, of course.
You could buy a Nano S Plus and have a second one. So you never, ever, ever want to be reliant on a single device. That would be a very bad idea in all cases, right? Just for a variety of reasons, whether it's about support, whether it's about loss, whether it's about theft, whether it's about fire. You never want to be, I have one device and that is my single point of failure.
But do you understand the communication problem and how people are thinking right now? My issue was not your updating or stopping support for the Nano S. I mean, even the screen got dimmed. I couldn't see it. It had it was made, and I think it could have had better quality for the amount of money we paid for it back then. Doesn't matter. I don't have a problem with that. I have over 15 wallets. I'm a YouTuber. I get them all the time. That's not my issue. My issue was the safety or the OPSEC part of this. So
I think it's important that that's what you're bringing up, because if you have good OPSEC and you have your 24 words, then your device itself is irrelevant and your wallet is portable to any other wallet or any other device.
But most people don't have it. But most people don't have it because otherwise you wouldn't make the recovery option, right? Because you're going for a broad range of users. My question is, do you think, let me rephrase this. Do you think this could have been communicated better by Ledger? It was a leak from a dev, or it was for devs, or it looked like a leak. It doesn't really matter. That's irrelevant. Could this have been communicated better with the public? And if yes, or if no, or whatever, is it going to be from now on?
Look, I think you can always communicate better. From our perspective, we messaged when we stopped selling Nano S. We've continued to support it for more than 3 years. We will continue to support and try to make sure that users' funds are never locked. If you have your 24 words, your funds are never inaccessible, right? There are lots. If you have your 24 words, there is a multitude of ways, both with and without Ledger, that you can always get your funds.
Of course.
I think, to me, the main communication point here is, as you said, OPSEC. And I don't think it's true that most people don't have their 24 words. And I think that the thing that we all have to be clear about is you really must have a way, you must have that backup in some way, and probably in multiple ways, right? Because even if the only thing you have is Ledger Recovery Key, it's pin protected, it's great. But if somebody were to take that device and that recovery key and sort of try to log into it 3 times, that thing's going to factory reset. Mm-hmm. You must have somewhere in good storage, 24 words on paper, on steel, and I think that's the key thing that you and I need to communicate, to the user base, because if you have that, you're always safe, whether it's something wrong with your screen, if something wrong with, the device itself, and I think the main thing is, if you are reliant on a single device and you think it's going to last forever, I'm never going to lose it, it's never going to break, it's never going to be gone in a fire, that's fundamentally dangerous, and you need to think a little more.
No, you do communicate this in your products from the beginning. And me personally, what I do, and I think people should hear this as well, is I actually have half of my recovery phrase or my seed phrase, the other half somewhere else. So I have half in my vault, for example. I just pointed where it was, by the way, but it doesn't matter. And then the other half I'll have in a disclosed, a non-disclosed location.
Yep.
And then my full seed phrase is in a bank vault where it's protected by guns.
Yeah.
right? And that's the best kind of security you could possibly have, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
Yeah, and I also do think, I mean, I recommend to friends, I think everyone needs to have their own personal operational security, but I recommend to friends that, if you're going to buy, say, a Ledger Stacks or a Ledger Flex, buy a couple of Nano S Plus, set them up with the same seed phrase. Now, if you do put it through the washing machine or whatever, you can always make a transaction. Also, last week, we started shipping that Ledger recovery key. We ship one with our touchscreen devices, so you get one for free. We sell them in singles or three packs. I super recommend getting a three pack because these are electronic and pin protected. So, you could leave them and not be worried about, an intruder having direct access to them. And you could have them in three different physical locations. I have a good friend who lost both his Nano and his recovery phrase in the Pacific Palisades fires just a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
He had like one ETH on it. He wasn't devastated, but he learned the lesson. You know what I mean? So having those electronic backups in more than one place is just good practice. And now with Ledger Recovery Key, you've got more ways to do that. I used to say get an S plus. It's cheap. It gives you some flexibility. But now with Recovery Key, it's even cheaper, gives you even more flexibility if that's what you want.
So let's talk about recovery key, because I'm not sure if you're referring to the update, the so-called backdoor by many that you can recover by your seed phrase being shipped to three different locations by Ledger, or I'm not sure if you're talking about something else. So let's talk a little bit about that. And again, I think it's a great idea. And again, I do have a communication problem there, and we can talk about that as well. But generally speaking, listen, just off the bat, I need to be very clear here, just for everyone watching. I actually do admire Ledger when it comes to quality, when it comes to what they're doing. They were the industry, maybe even still the industry standard in this space. And I do appreciate you coming on and setting the record straight, so to speak. So I just want to make that clear. I was a bit pissed off with the communication. That's what we're talking about today, because I did make those videos. But just the fact that you are here is awesome. And I think that shows a lot and tells a lot.
No, debate is good, and these are important topics, so it's good
Right.
to talk about them. So I appreciate you having me on. So let me do two things that I think hopefully will be useful for your watchers. And so I'm going to talk about three things actually. I want to talk about the architecture of Ledger and then the recovery steps. So whether it's a Nano or these are the touchscreen devices. This is a Stacks. This is a Flex. This is the Solana Edition Flex. Actually.
I actually saw those at Istanbul Blockchain Week, by the way. They're very cool.
And here's another Flex without this the standard edition. So that you need three things to be secure. You have to have a private key that was generated by and stored in a secure element. And generated by is actually important because there's entropy on board that helps you make sure that your private key is sufficiently random, et cetera. And most devices don't actually do that. They'll generate it in what is called a general purpose MCU, which is sort of like the chip that's in your toaster or your remote control for your TV. And then maybe they use secure storage. But we do everything inside of that secure element, including the second thing is the cryptographic transactions need to happen inside of that secure element. Like a lot of things, indeed, they'll pull the private key out of the secure storage. They do the transaction in the general purpose MCU, and then they put it back. And you'll hear people talk about kind of open source as well, but an open source chip, unfortunately, what that doesn't give you is kind of verifiability of the device, the chip, and the firmware, right? So even though you can verify the code of the chip, you can't verify that the code that you're running on the chip is the code that you intend to run. But for us, since we use an ST microelectronics secure element, we can verify that, okay, yes, this is the chip I think I'm talking to, and I'm verifying that the firmware on this chip is what I think it is. And then the third thing that you need the secure screen. So the magic trick is that these screens, which are really pretty, advanced screens, are powered by the same chip that's in your credit card. So you have this chip that wasn't meant for performance, it was meant for security, and we're using it to power a screen. We can do that because e-ink is a little easier than like your phone screen.
Yeah.
It's not that complex a device. It's a grayscale. It's a signing device. You're not playing video games on it.
Right.
But that's why it's really like a special purpose security device, and the architecture of Ledger itself is unparalleled. So the challenge is, and I think the way that we think about it is, look, if there's 600 million people in crypto, we know that it looks like this. Hundreds of millions of them are on exchanges.
Yeah.
Not your keys, not your coins. Tens of millions of them are in software wallets, which is self-custody with no security. And you've got around 10 million people in secure self-custody like Ledger. So let's be clear what we're even talking about, right? Our goal is to make secure self-custody available to more people, right? So people don't do secure self-custody because, to your earlier point, they don't understand it. They don't there, and maybe if you're kind of like thinking about backup of your 24 words doesn't freak you out a little bit, you must not understand it, right? You should be a little nervous about it.
Of
Like
course.
that would be normal. And then once you are, you're like, oh man, do I want that responsibility and how do I take that responsibility, right? And also like, can I live up to that responsibility? Because maybe I do it, or maybe I'm going to do it well tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. And so we've created like an array of ways. So the way, your box used to just come with a piece of paper with 24 lines on it. You write down your 24 words, and like it's up to you to figure out the right place to put that. Then there's also, we don't make them, but we sell them. Solutions like crypto tag, crypto steal,
Right.
fireproof and disaster-proof solutions. Then we built Ledger Recover, and Ledger Recover works on your identification. So we built it in cooperation with a company called CoinCover. And the way it works is you identify yourself using your government ID. It then takes your private key, shards it into three, gives it to three different custodians in three different jurisdictions: France, UK, US. And the only place that can be reconstructed is in a device. And the way it can be reconstructed is you go back through multiple identity checks. And if you pass those identity checks, then it will reconstruct the seed for you. So you can back it up, and the only thing you need to recover is your government ID, right?
Okay.
The communication of that was, A, premature, and B, frankly, we just kind of misjudged how familiar people were with how a wallet works, right? Because people said, what do you mean? How can you do that with your private key? Like, how do you have access to the private key? We're like, you don't have access to the private key, you can't sign the transaction, right? So the reality is, this is why you should be worried about where your private key is. Your software wallet has your private key. Every wallet has your private key. It's how it signs a transaction. And you can do the way the architecture works is Ledger's operating system guarantees that you must have approval of anything that touches your private key.
Okay.
So whether it's a blockchain transaction or Ledger Recover, you approve it. It's an opt-in feature. It's a for-pay feature. If you don't want it, it doesn't change a damn thing.
Couple of questions on this, because I'll tell you what the most people's concerns are, because I know it. I live with these people every day. And I also have a couple of questions for you on the communication part, where you said it could have been done better, which is cool. I like that. My issue was, I think what I would have done if I was CMO of Ledger, and I'm not pitching myself here, but if I was a CMO of Ledger or something, or C-level something of communication, I would have considered not implementing this on devices already bought and having a new line of devices where this would actually be possible, because a lot of people got scared of that update just giving them that avenue, that way of doing things. So all of a sudden, it started being called a backdoor. Now, whether it is a backdoor, whether it's not a backdoor, that's not important right now. But why do it on a Ledger Nano X, which people bought without expecting that?
I think it is important. Let me tell you what we did wrong and what we did differently with Ledger Recovery Key. What we should have done is what we did with Ledger Recovery Key. And if you look at the Ledger Recovery Key launch, which has been over the past 2 months, it's gone like super well. The reason is we learned a lesson with Ledger Recover, and we did it totally differently. So what we did with Ledger Recovery Key is, if you notice, kind of a month and a half ago, we said, hey, we built this thing. Here's the white paper. Here's the code. Here's how it works. We didn't talk about anything about how it was coming to market. We didn't even tell people that we were going to give it away for free. In fact, the biggest criticism we got was, oh, Ledger's going for a cash.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, okay, well,
they always find something. I mean, come on.
We gave it away for free, motherfuckers, so take that.
Right.
The point is that we told, because the thing is that there's just two different audiences, and it's very difficult to talk to them at the same time. You have like crypto Twitter. People have been with Ledger for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's one group. Our goal with this, which I think we all believe in, is getting more people into secure self-custody, right? Like that. And so intentionally with this, we did it in two parts. Hey, crypto Twitter, here's this new product, check it out, kick the tires, put it through the paces, look at the code, tell us what you think of it. And then, a month later, we do a consumer release, which is like, hey, look, we're bringing secure self-custody to more people. That's
Nice.
what we should have done with Ledger Recover. And we learned that lesson. And that's why we did it right with this. Now, to answer your question directly, though, we wouldn't do what you said because, and maybe it's a little ideological of us, but we don't do security theater. Like it's just and so the reality is that if we said, oh, this device doesn't have Ledger Recover and this one does, that's just fake nonsense. I mean,
not if you had it open source. You were talking about open source
it
earlier.
is open source.
Well, then people could verify that that's
open
not
source, and it's always been open source.
So then people could verify if that's the case or not with the other device.
Exactly, and it is. They can.
All right.
So the open source shit is total FUD. It's nonsense.
Okay.
If people like really dig into that issue, they will for sure agree with us. You choose security in all cases.
Okay.
I don't think you want less secure to get some fake moniker of open source. And Ledger Recover has always been open source, and so you can verify it all day long. And so the thing is that it'd be like if I told you like, this computer comes with Windows 3.1 and this one is you can only run Windows NT. You'd be like, really? It's a computer. Can't you run either operating system on it? Like, the reality is, look, we have Bitcoiners that are upset because our devices support more coins. My answer is, you want a Bitcoin only device? Install the Bitcoin app.
Right. Well, of course, but
the same thing with Ledger Recover.
Here.
You want a no Ledger Recover app? All right, our device, just don't use Ledger Recover.
Isn't Ledger Recover even the update that is sent to 3 different countries, as you say, and somebody could get their recovery key back? Does that not give access to, let's say, governments being able to do this to you as well? Because look, the countries you mentioned, I think it was England, France, and one more, and United States.
If you don't,
they have a pact. In fact, I can't remember the exact abbreviation of the sharing pact they have. But
if you don't back up your keys there, then no one has access to anything.
All right, so let's talk about that because I think that's very important. So, and I think this is where a lot of people, including myself, got worried a little bit. And not because we're going to get caught by a government, whatever, but that just gives access to other things as well. If, for example, you have the recovery key, the option, right?
Ledger Recover or recovery key? Sorry.
Yeah, because now you have 2 different products. So I'm even more confused, right? So it's kind of the original first recovery method that you can do.
Ledger Recover, which is the ID-based backup.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Would that not give access to somebody, law, governments, or whatever, to get access to see your keys or your crypto?
If you use Ledger Recover, then these custodians do each have a shard of your backup.
Right.
Don't we? As
I
Ledger,
understand.
That's why it's Ledger Recover powered by CoinCover.
Right.
If you do not use it, like if this is a concern to you, for example,
right,
and not opt into Ledger Recover, then no, there is zero chance,
perfect access. Perfect answer.
Or that's it. If you don't like the feature, simply don't use it, and it doesn't change anything in your life.
That's important to communicate, and I think that's what was missing in the communication. Can they force you to use it if you get caught?
No, absolutely not. There's no. Okay. And again, like the white paper's out there, we did like a 6-part blog series on exactly how it works. If people really want the detail, you know what I mean? They can. And what's interesting about this is a product that when we released it was absolutely celebrated by every security expert.
Right.
This was strictly sort of paranoia FUD stuff.
I agree. Even back then, I was actually on your side at that point, and I was communicating this as well.
Like I said, I completely agree on the communication, and the way I would do it now is the way we did Ledger Recover, which is white paper. Don't even talk about the feature. Hey, here it is. Let kind of crypto Twitter talk it out.
Exactly. Let the YouTubers,
once we had done that, influencers, the feature, and crypto Twitter would be like, yeah, we saw that. We talked about it already.
Now that said. I did want to make a point here. So when that came out, I was actually saying get the Nano S because there's no possibility of that being on there because the memory was too small.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of my gripe. A lot of people bought the Nano S from different distributors. I'm like, hey, Paul, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, dude, I got the same issue.
Look, I think another point here, like it's not like you can take your iCloud account and move it to Android, right? But
Right,
with 24 words, it's important to us. It's always portable, right? And that's even why, like with Ledger Recovery Key, that will only work with our touchscreen devices because it requires NFC and it requires communication with a Ledger device. And I would really encourage people, to make sure they have like, good like long-term backup of their 24 words on steel or something anyway, and to use the recovery key as a backup. And the nice thing is we do have in our lives permissionless money.
mm,
And so we're trying to give the broadest access to this incredible invention of permissionless money. And really just trying to bring that to the largest group of people. So a touchscreen device, electronic backup, ID-based backup, if you would like it. These are all, giving optionality,
right.
but at the end of the day, it's cryptography. And you've got your 24 words and it's completely portable to any device. You can move it between a Nano S and S Plus and some other device if you'd like and if you have those 24 words, you have zero risk.
Funny question, Ian. Would the identity opt-in include Palau IDs?
I think that there are actually restrictions. Like, I don't think I could use my California driver's
Right.
license. I think I had to use my U.S. passport. You know what I mean?
Okay,
But
cool.
yeah. It is not an infinite set of identifications that it allows. But if you think about it again, remember you gotta like zoom out and remember the
Yeah.
use case. This is not for like an OG crypto whale. That's not who this product was ever intended for. The reality is that most people in the world have less than $50,000,
Yeah.
even less than 10,000, 90+%, right?
I would argue less than that.
Exactly. And, with this, you get identity-based backup, $50,000 of coverage in case it's given to somebody in the wrong way. I understand that lots of people are like, oh, I'm not giving my government ID to anybody. Great. This product is not for you. It's not for them. There are lots and lots and lots of people that are just like, look, I want exposure to this asset class. I want, I want to have, easy backup in case my house burns down. That's
No, it's good. It's good for new. Let's put it this way: it's very good for entrepreneurs, older businessmen, people coming in, people that are aware of security. And yeah, it's 100%. I'm with that. That said, would you like to tell us about your new line of products and tell us a few things about them while we're here?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, we have we worked on this in 2022, and man, it was hard to release. I made a whole documentary about making this
It looks
product.
really cool. I saw it at Token 20, not Token 2049. I saw it at Istanbul Blockchain Week. It looked really cool.
If you search on YouTube, there's a video that I made called "The Road to Ledger Stacks."
Okay,
I made that after like you'll see the CEO of E Ink in that video, and I made that video in 2 weeks after having, or the team did after having, a dinner with the CEO of E Ink, and he had said some very complimentary things about what we'd done
nice.
with the product, and I said, "Will you say that on camera?" And he said, I called the team and said, we're going to make a documentary real quick. And you'll see, I call it like a podumentary because we just did it
Right.
kind of over Zoom like this. But this device was so hard to make. And what ended up happening is the screen is just too expensive.
Yeah.
So this is really a luxury device. I just worked at LVMH for 5 years, and I don't mind having a luxury device, especially in
Yeah,
crypto.
me too. I would love it actually.
I think for a lot of people that they're just, I was talking to a friend about it this morning because he was like, which one should I get? And I said, look, if you really love the industrial design and you want this beautiful, artifact of crypto that Tony Fadell designed, get the stacks.
Yeah.
If that doesn't mean anything to you and you just want, like an amazing device, then get the Flex. Right. I like, this is kind of the sports car. This is like the pickup truck.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this really does the job. It's fucking industrial strength. This is a beautiful object in your life. We've got like these incredible magnetic folios but look,
Yeah, they're cool. It's cool. It's nice.
Some people carry a Louis Vuitton bag. Some people carry a Patagonia bag.
Oh God, my girlfriend.
I
Making me nuts with bags.
They both have a place. They both have a place in the universe, right? They actually have exactly the same level of security, and so does the Nano S Plus, by the way.
Mm,
You know, the Nano S Plus has the same level of security of these devices. It's just, you
interesting.
got to click OK with your
Yeah.
fingers on the top where this is a touchscreen. So for my sister, I'm going to give her this. I'm not going to give her an S Plus because she's going to be like, what is this thing? Like, what do you
Right.
mean? Like, how do I click OK? You know what I mean? Like when you have to ask that question, it's the wrong UI.
Yeah.
Whereas this is super easy to use, great price point, et cetera. And then we have this new thing I was describing earlier. And so now all of these touchscreen devices, because they have Bluetooth and NFC, they come with this Ledger recovery key, which uses NFC to do an electronic pin protected backup of your 24 words. I'm doing this because you tap the recovery
Yeah.
key
Yeah. Yeah.
back, and it just backs up. You can't
So
write the
you
word.
have another device to be able to unpack that for me a
Yeah,
second.
I'm sorry that I don't have one with me. Here I am right now. That would be better, but it's just a little square card, like a
Right.
plastic credit card, and you just hold it against the back of the device, and
Right.
that card has a secure chip in it, and it is an electronic backup of your recovery key, and it's
That
pin
is pretty cool. That is very cool.
and so and it comes now with all of these, or you can buy them in singles or three packs on the device. And for people who bought these over the past year and a half, or year, really more like year, we released this July 29 last year, and we started shipping
Mhm.
these again then. So for all the people who had already bought Flex or Stacks, we have a way for you to just claim a free one, and we're shipping them out right now. And but yeah, it's like, we're bringing secure self-custody to more people. And like I said, nobody has this architecture. And really I encourage people to dig into that open source argument and ask smart questions, because education is your friend, FUD is your enemy. And but yeah, I mean, we're uncompromising when it comes to security and self-custody. Like I think every cycle you get people who give you very rational reasons that you should compromise on security, self-custody, or both. And then every cycle, those reasons lead to disaster over time. Our
Right.
job is to keep a really steady hand and to just be like, look, we have a bar of security that we don't go below. That bar is created and stored in the private in the secure element, computation done in the secure element, secure screen. That's the
Nice.
bar we don't go below. We don't go below that bar. And I wouldn't recommend you go below that bar. The other thing is, we don't do like a half self-custody solution where we keep a shard, or we keep a key, or we say it's seedless, which
Mm,
is just kind of nonsense. Like, that now you have no portability. You really are screwed if you lose that device. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just have a standard on this. And our job then is to make that easier and easier to use. Because the challenge with that kind of pure model of
mhm.
secure self-custody is, it's not as easy to use as just logging into a Coinbase account.
Agree.
It's not as easy to use as, something which has software only security. It's not as easy to use as something which is quote unquote seedless, but it gives you real advantages in terms of security and self-custody. And that's why we don't go below that bar. And I look, you know how it is, like information is tough to communicate,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
not everybody has the same standard. And unfortunately, some people care about security when it's too late.
Exactly.
There's 7 billion people with smartphones. That's 7 billion people with a password problem. How many of those people have good password hygiene?
Yeah. So some of them even say that it's they can use their old phone for a hardware wallet, which is just preposterous. And
I mean, when you can walk into a Best Buy and buy, a Nano S Plus really cheap, have literally the world's best security. Like if your crypto isn't worth the, 50 to 79 bucks you're going to spend on a Nano S Plus,
yeah,
depending on where
then it
you
doesn't
are,
matter.
what can I do for you, man? Like, how can I help you? That's like, I mean, what I would say is like, and you probably use the same password everywhere, right? Like you're just waiting for the attack at that point,
Exactly. Exactly.
waiting for it. Like maybe you'll get lucky. You know what I mean? Maybe nobody breaks into your car. Maybe the car next to you is always more attractive, but like if you take security seriously and you do your research, you're going to end up with a ledger.
Ian, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you. You actually gave me a way to put up the ledger back onto my website and in the links in the description down below for people to check out. I really appreciate you.
Hey man, I appreciate you. I appreciate that we both have music industry background. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. So
appreciate that we both love real rap.
yes, Real rap and no real rappers.
No, and I'll come back and chat with you anytime, man. Really, it's cool to get to know you, and really happy you
Let's
got.
do it soon, man. Let's do it soon. Ian, I would love to get into another discussion and get into more about OPSEC and a little bit more about how people do their security, or maybe if you have a product to actually coming down on your roadmap, I would love to have you on.
We do, and we'd love to have you with us when we announce them. And really, like, it's a great conversation. So, what I would say is, anytime you have a question about Ledger, let's do this.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ian.
Have it face to face.
Is there anything you would like to add to everybody watching right now? And I got one last question for you before you leave.
Man, I would just say check out the Clips record if you haven't. I think Everything is Psychedelic is also worth checking out this year. And now, like, let's just do it again. We got plenty more to talk about.
All right, cool. One last question, man. You get interviewed a lot. People ask you a lot of things whenever you go somewhere. What's the one question you wish people asked you that seldom do?
Oh man, that's a great question. I wish I had like an answer right in my back pocket for this. I think to like with the theme that we're talking about, I think I just like to build bottom up. Why are we doing this? Right? I think sometimes we skip over, like, we have this incredible invention of, we're in other words, to me, I'm old and I lived through the internet revolution. The internet was this revolution of information. Crypto is a revolution of value. And I think what's insane about that is, we have $4 trillion market cap, right? But nobody thinks about how difficult that is to protect. Like, I can't name 5 places that I would recommend a friend keep their digital value. And that's bananas to me.
Yeah.
The amount of people who are using software wallets and like pretending like they have some semblance of security is crazy. So what I wish is that we kind of talk more foundational, because I think you kind of walk the path from the beginning to where we are today, that you end up at the same place that we are, and you'd make a lot of the same decisions that Ledger has. And so I take your feedback on, on communication, but also, man, you can't talk to everybody all the time. You can't, you know what I mean? You're
Right.
spinning plates every day, and you are very, very, very best. But I think if you kind of build first principles, I can't imagine another place to end up.
Right.
And I think what's frustrating for me is the people who have kind of fake arguments about, the architecture choices they've made, frankly. And then some of them behind the scenes have told me to my face, yeah, if I could go back, I would choose Ledger's architecture, but it's too late for me. I don't have the time, the money. And so now I just have to FUD you.
Got you.
Like, wow, I thought we were in this space to actually change humanity. And like, I would like to have those kind of foundational, you have to make choices, those conversations. So anyway, I wish I had a shorter answer to that question, but that's
it was great, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much, Ian.
Appreciate it. It's good to get to know you, man.
Thank you, man. So there you have it. Ian Rogers on The Crypto Factor, setting things straight, answering our questions. I really appreciate him coming on, and it really changed my mind when it comes to Ledger. I'm actually bullish on Ledger again. I actually recommend you check out their product in the description down below. Now, with that said, I did want to dive into more things about Ledger, what they're doing in the future, and I hope to have Ian back. He was pressed for time, so I kept it in the conversation about the video we made. And if you're wondering about that video, I do suggest you watch it so you can have your own opinion after you watch both videos, the interview and that video, so you can have context. So make sure you watch this video here, and yeah, check it out and tell me what you think in the comments down below. See you in the video.